I'm Howard Mandel, president of the Jazz Journalists Association. Welcome to Seeing Jazz with Efrain Ribeiro, who is the Baltimore Jazz Hero of 2024, but also an extraordinary photographer who's immersed himself deeply in the Baltimore jazz scene and is going to share his images and talk about them today, as well as his avocational career as a photographer. So, welcome, Efrain, and,
Thanks. Thank you,
and
Mohammed.
glad you're here. And maybe you could start off just by telling us a little bit about how you got involved in photography to begin with.
Yeah, probably the same way many have gotten involved, and that is through my family. I had an uncle who documented everything in our family and more. He also documented sports events, etc. And he always enjoyed doing slideshows on the weekends. And so it was a big family affair. And that got me attracted to that aspect of it. And then I actually studied, filmmaking. That was actually my original uh, uh, part of, side of interest. And photography was just kind of like a side thing that I would do to prepare for the filming of the films that we would do when we were younger. And it was out of those two and the continuous family photography things that we would do on the side that led me to the point of where we're at right now, where it's primarily the major focus of my life since I retired from working in corporations after 45 years.
Did,
So
did you pursue photography early on instead of filmmaking because the expense was less?
no, actually, I try. I grew up in that era where video was coming into being, and so it was kind of a strange time because as we were learning filmmaking and doing, learning how to edit and doing the mechanical stuff associated with putting a film together, um, I was also being pushed towards the video aspect of doing television. And so I ended up going down the video way, and photography was a kind of a side thing for me. Now, obviously, I did, as you'll see in the first set of photographs that I present, I did I did try and do photography, in a professional way, in the best way possible under, shooting conditions and lighting conditions that weren't the best. So I used the learnings from filmmaking to do that. But the reason I think I've come back to photography, and I think this is important, is after 45 years of working in a corporation and having jobs that involve the management of large groups of people in disparate countries and managing people to do stuff that was very difficult. The last thing I want to do is try to do something that involves cooperating, getting, any person to cooperate. I want to be in control of everything that I'm doing. And photography is one of the few arts, like writing, that you can do and have full control of what you're doing. And the fact that I really don't need anybody to fund the things that I'm doing makes it even better, because then I get to pick and choose the things that I'm interested in doing.
Just for a little background, we should know what you did professionally in your corporate life. What briefly?
Yeah, it was actually an interesting corporate life. I worked in market research. The first half of my career was involved in um, media research, and the reason I got into those is because I went to the University of Syracuse to study filmmaking and video, and I took two courses on media research. And when you're trying to get a job, the media research aspect of my background was the one that caught employers' attention, and so I got that. Now that led into the latter part of my career, which was um, my specialty was building panels, and I participated in the taking the panel methodology onto the internet back in 1996. And we did it successfully, and it made our company, one of the many companies I became a part of, super attractive for these corporate entities to come in and buy, and purchase us. So I went through, the last 15 years working for three different international companies, two in Europe and one in the US, that basically took that technology and made it into the way that most large corporations and brands use to figure out like what people think about future products and existing products and things like that. It was a very interesting. I can't tell you. It was a very interesting thing. But the last thing I had time to do was photography. And I think the one thing that I would say is really important in doing photography is being able to do your photography and look at it after you do it, and then study it and make adjustments, etc. And I never had, a lot of the stuff that you're going to see initially, I had not seen in 40 years until like the last 2 months. So because I just didn't have the time.
When you're talking about panels, you mean like focus groups, that sort of thing?
Yeah, but they weren't focus groups, they're quantitative panels. So basically, we had a panel, just this is how crazy it was. Back in 2000, we had an online panel of 1 million people in the United States, 1 million families. That's when you could actually get people to do silly stuff like answering surveys online. It's very difficult to do that today, but that's what it was. So it was really kind of a pioneering opportunity, and it allowed me to use the things I learned about filmmaking, actually, putting projects together, etc. And it was very helpful.
Well, maybe some of that'll play into what you have to say today as we're looking at some of your images. And let's get started to looking at some images.
Okay.
So you're going to share your screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you see this or not?
Yeah.
So you can see JJ seeing jazz session, right?
Nope.
Oh, you can't. Okay, so let me go back to. Okay, let me go here. This is always the fun part here. Trying to figure out why I can't see the share my screen slot.
You had it earlier, so I know you can have it again.
Hmm,
On
hmm.
my screen, it's lit up in green. It says share screen at the bottom.
Yeah, it's not, unfortunately, it's not coming up, but let me see if I can. Hmm. Well, that worked to,
Let's see if there's anything else we can do about this. No.
I've actually lost you now, so let me see if I can
Oh,
actually get
no.
our.
Oh, attendees, we had this all together 15 minutes ago.
Yep, we actually did.
So please bear with us.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure why I can't see the
Do you need to go leave and come back?
yeah, maybe that will work.
I don't see anything else here that I can that I can do to reestablish any controls for you.
Okay, let me
Or let me withdraw the co-host permission and then give it to you again and see if that works.
yeah, because for some strange reason I can't even
Okay,
I
I'm just gonna withdraw this, okay? So now I'm the host and now I'm gonna make you the co-host again. And try sharing your screen now.
yeah, for some reason I can't even see you right now.
Hmm. You can't see me. Is your my video's on? I can see me.
Yeah, I can only see your I'm gonna get my my wife to help me.
Hi.
Hello.
You have to,
Here's the Zoom thing,
okay.
but you'll see.
Well, what you need to do, can you make this smaller? No, the browser smaller. Here we,
There we go now.
Great. Great. Thank you. And again, if you yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to go through right now is the some of the early stuff that I did pre the 45 years in in corporations, and what you'll see are these are all digitized from film that I've done recently, thanks to a gift I got from my daughter. It's a desktop size. It's called the PluStack uh, 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 apparatus that allows me to easily digitize some of these images. And this is everybody will recognize this person on the screen. This is a photograph from the famous ballroom, which was here in Baltimore, and was probably my earliest education in jazz photography. It was a venue on Sundays from 5 to 10 that would feature the you know the best musicians that exist here in the U.S. And this is in 1976. Sun Ra actually came to the ballroom for the first time, which surprised me immensely. And he after this time that he visited, he actually came twice a year for I think 5 to 6 years following.
Hmm.
Um, So this is another ballroom photograph of Sam Rivers. And I want to point out a really interesting thing about the famous ballroom because it's probably unique. And that is you can see right in the front of the photo, kind of like a control panel.
Mhm.
Every concert at the ballroom was recorded. And recently you might have seen a couple of releases from the ballroom, from this cache of incredible recordings.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember who I think it might have been a Roy Brooks album that came out a couple of years ago. But one of the mysteries in Baltimore is what happened to all of those recordings.
Mm.
Um, these were in the latter part of the time that I was in Baltimore initially for I had already graduated and I had seen Mingus and all these incredible people there. But this is when I actually started photographing, tried to photograph seriously the musicians.
Mhm. And you took care to get that mixing board into the photo here.
That is a great question because what happened is the environment at the ballroom was a bunch of picnic tables. And the picnic tables in the front row left a large gap between the people that were seated there and this mixing board. So it was an area where you could come in and sit down on the floor and shoot to your heart's content.
Uh-huh.
And if there's a lesson to be learned there is that when you're shooting this type of jazz, getting these types of angles and positions are super important. And we were able to do that. We were able to do that at the ballroom, which was ideal for doing photography because you could surround the stage juts out.
Uh-huh.
So that was almost in there by accident, and it was in the. I think that there was a corner of the control booth also in the prior photograph.
So that's Dave Holland playing cello. There wouldn't not have been any way you could have angled to get, I assume that's Barry Atchell playing drums.
No, it wasn't Barry Altschul. It's a different. I wish I could. I I have notes here, but I didn't put.
No, no problem.
Yeah, it was. This is the in the era of the Streams release. So
Mhm.
he was with a quartet that had Joe Daly on tuba, I think.
Mhm.
And the drummer is a different drummer. It was a kind of eclectic group, and Sam played he played tenor, soprano, flute, and piano at this concert.
Mhm.
And Dave Holland played bass also.
Maybe the drummer is Warren Smith.
That no, it's not Warren Smith. I'll give you the name in a second.
No, 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 no. Let's keep looking at photos. Good.
So the other place that I was able to get to from Baltimore was Washington D.C. and a friend of mine uh, who was an artist, his name is Bill Worrell, opened up a venue there called DC Space. And it was kind of this was during the era of the loft jazz scene.
Mhm.
And of course, this is Julius Hemphill, who visited a number of times there. And he, this is one of many photos that I have, but one that I cherish just simply because when I saw it recently, I didn't realize that I had gotten this close. And I think I took this with a 130 millimeter lens. I was shooting an f1 Canon.
Mhm.
And all these photos just they I had to push the film in that era. It's Tri-X or it's HP5, but I pushed everything, or else you would not be able to see it because of the lighting conditions.
Were you doing your own processing?
Yes, yes, I
You have
was
a
doing.
dark room? You have a dark room in your home? Or...
I had a dark room in my home. I had a dark room during this period. And, that was part of I think part of the reason I ended up doing all this stuff myself was my brother, when we were younger, got this little mini dark room for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And so we played with, this is when I was 15. We played with it and we found out it was so easy to actually produce images.
Uh-huh.
And so in that era, I think everybody was kind of used to processing their own stuff. So this was, yeah, I had my darkroom in my house and we did it. I still have my enlarger, but I have to say that I much prefer um, digital technology because of its just ease in terms of being able to manipulate the image.
Mhm. You know what I find interesting here? I'm looking at the textures, and I realize how sharp or small the depth of field is because the texture on his sweater at the left is sharp, and the one that's his texture on the right is all blurry, and then you blur out on the detail on the right, like I don't know if that's a radiator or something.
Yeah, that's true with a lot of the close-ups that I do be in the venues that I shoot, because I do not shoot in large venues. I shoot in small venues, and I only go with existing lighting.
Uh-huh.
I do not introduce any lighting to the situation, and that just forces you to open up as much as possible. And this is that situation. And occasionally, and I have some at the back end, occasionally I'll try to open it up a little bit more, especially with the capabilities with digital. Sometimes I think, can be a little more sensitive to light, especially the newer cameras.
Mhm.
This is Roscoe Mitchell, and this is at the Corcoran, and this was another Bill Worrell, the guy that did DC Space. And I got the opportunity to go in. He let me see how they were setting up because everybody knows the art ensemble has a gigantic, percussion stuff that they have to put up. So it takes them a long time to set up. And Roscoe was tuning up on the side, and I just went up to him and I took a number of different photos, of which this one I like the best. Um, and this was a concert back in 1978.
Roscoe Mitchell and the Art Ensemble of Chicago at the
Correct. Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Corcoran Gallery in D.C. Uh-huh.
Yep. Yep. And
Roscoe,
the funny thing is, the following week they went to the ballroom in Baltimore, and I also took photos of that concert. And one of the interesting things about these two set of concerts was that Lester Bowie was not playing with them at that time.
hmm.
He had, I think, a side gig that he was working on, and so he was not a part of these concerts.
So they played as a quartet.
They played as a quartet.
Uh-huh.
This is the following week at the ballroom, and this is Joseph Jarman.
Mhm.
And at the ballroom, I mean, this is the beauty of the ballroom, is that you could actually get to the side and get very close to the musicians
Mhm.
and be able to, to shoot, um, which was, just a great opportunity to take this type of shot. At the Corcoran, I wasn't able to get, except for the, the pre-concert, I wasn't able to get that type of shot.
I see.
This is a DC Space, and this is Don Cherry. And you can see the graphic in the back there, that wall hanging.
Yeah.
That's a piece of art that Bill Worrell did, and used to hang at DC Space, forever. But on this occasion, it coincides that Don Cherry is there in front playing an African instrument of which I have no idea what its name is. And
Goonie.
okay, I think that's what I was told by somebody else. And in these concerts, you could sit like you could sit as close to the musicians as you dared. And I believe there were some chairs in the back, but it was actually much more convenient to slide up and be right there. This was taken with a 20 millimeter wide angle lens, and it was Don Cherry and Ed Blackwell, by the way, who were a part of this concert. And to my amazement, I Googled the date, and there is a bootleg copy on YouTube of the audio to this concert. I'm amazed at all the things. I think for the art ensemble, you can find bootleg copies on the internet of those concerts. They're not great, they're not great audio. They're not great audio copies, but they're there.
Interesting.
Um,
That's not Blackwell in the back. Who is that?
no, that is a person who participated in the concert, but I can't tell you the name. There was another local musician, Brother Yaya, who did participate, but that's not Brother Yaya.
Okay.
This is Steve Lacy, who played this concert in 1980 at the Smithsonian, and this was one of the last Smithsonian concerts I think that Martin Williams organized, because I think in '81 he took another position within the Smithsonian. And I think my early jazz education was a result of Martin Williams, because he had some great Smithsonian concerts in the early '70s. Cecil Taylor, Ornette Coleman, Mingus, Lee Konitz, that he did in this hall that was a great hall for music. But I did not photograph any of those. This was the one that I photographed, and I did like 2 rolls, so I have many more images. But I thought this one was. I have a lot of close-ups of him, but I thought this image was a good one to show, because one of the things that interests me in the photography that I do is I do like to show the context and environment where the musicians are playing, and if at all possible, show more than one musician, of course.
I like your photos. This is Irina Abe, who is Steve Lacy's wife, vocalist and cellist.
Yep.
And is it Jack Avenel?
Correct.
Right?
Yes, that's who was playing. And Oliver Johnson is the drummer that you can't see. And Steve Potts is the other saxophonist on this stage.
So, do you have any concerns about getting all of them into the view? I mean, it seems like you're going with what you can get in terms of an angle on them. But were you worried that, having the bass player only partially visible was going to render the photo less useful?
Well, that's a great question. Today, I always get a full picture of everybody that's in the combo in my photos, and I get more than that too. In that era, in this venue, I could not move. It was difficult to move within the hall. In other words, you would make yourself conspicuous, and you'd interfere with other people. So I was unable to. I'll have to go back and actually see if I have any full full group pictures, because I did have my wide angle, and I would be surprised if I didn't actually take a photo of the entire group. And today I'm much more methodical, and I would actually, that would be one of the angles that I would take.
Were you doing these for, or with hopes of them being published, or were you doing these pretty much for yourself and documentation for the club, for the venue?
Everything that I do is for myself. And today it's for the musician if they want to use it. Let's put it that way. I wasn't thinking that any of this stuff would ever see. No, actually, I was thinking that somebody would look at these, 30 years from now, and possibly find them interesting. I'm doing a more of a kind of a cultural, um, anthropology of, the visual stuff of how people play jazz, and where they play it, and what the contexts are.
Okay.
So no, I didn't have the expectations that these would see the publication. In those days, back in '80, I don't know how many places you could get photographs like this published anyway. Could you? I mean, what were the venues back then?
Coda,
Downbeat?
Coda,
Coda would be a good one, right? Coda. That's
downbeat,
a good,
maybe. But
yeah.
this looks like a Coda photo to me. Let's keep going.
So the time transpired, and 45 years passed, and so I had the opportunity to begin playing around with digital technology while I was still doing film. And finally, around 2016, I was able to begin employing digital technology to the photography that I was doing for jazz.
Oh.
And it took me like 10 years to figure out the type of setup that I would need. But partly what helped was my wife got me a small little Leica that's I think it's a Deluxe 6. And I started using it, and my daughter got us tickets to go see this concert, which was the NPR concert in 2016 of All Songs Considered.
Hmm.
And this is Cam Franklin with the group The Sufferers. They're more of a soul group.
Hmm.
And it was at the 930 Club, where there's professional lighting, et cetera, but still difficult. It's not ideal. And I took these with this little camera. It's a wonderful camera. I've used it all the way up until about a year ago in many occasions. And it was able to take this photo I'm using the telephoto capability in it. And it kind of blew me away that I would be able to take something of this type of detail in that type of context. And
Hmm.
so that convinced me that I should be using that camera, and that I could use digital technology to begin taking photos of other musical performances. But it began with this, which wasn't. This is not technically a jazz group, but it's a great group. I would recommend anybody who's listening to go see them, because they employ a lot of funk and kind of neo soul stuff. But it encouraged me to move forward with digital.
Boy, her body has so much presence there.
She is fantastic. I photographed her in 2 other concerts,
Hmm.
and she's just so photogenic. This is a photo at a local small place here in Baltimore called Bertha's, where kind of out musicians play. Michael Formanek is in the back there, who's a bass professor and a great bassist, jazz bassist. at Peabody at that time. And this is a trumpeter whose name is Theljon Allen. And the guy playing saxophone is uh, Derek Michaels, who's actually a good friend of mine now. At that time, I didn't know him. And so here's a situation in a really weirdly lit room where using that little deluxe, Leica Deluxe, I was able to get what I consider, I think this is an interesting photo. In color, it's even more interesting, but I didn't, the colors are kind of off and difficult to align because of the just they're all different colors. So I thought the black and white would be better. But you can see what this tiny little camera, if you're in this type of intimate environment, can do.
I think the open door really makes this. Or is that a mirror?
That's an open door.
Yeah.
It's a type of place where people can just walk in, and they have it opened specifically so people can walk in. I believe that this place no longer exists. It was a great place while it lasted, which is like 50 years. I think it's up for auction. This is the place this is the venue that I photographed a lot of the stuff pre-COVID. It's called Andy Musique. It's not a bar. It's more kind of like a little concert venue. And it is perfect for jazz and classical music, which they do. And this is one of my all-time favorite saxophonist, Dave Liebman. And the pianist is Bobby Avey. And this place is just wonderful because you can hear everything. It's acoustic. And this is pre-COVID, so the lighting is different than today because now they do, in addition to doing intimate concerts, they also do live stream.
Right.
And unfortunately, with live streaming, they have to light up the stage in ways that can take away from the visual appeal.
Bill May is asking, do you use a handheld meter or meter through the camera?
I meter from the camera.
Okay.
And I take a lot of photographs. So, eventually I'll meter around, I'll shoot around the f-stop and the adjustments accordingly.
I see.
This is a photo that I'm including because later on in the presentation, and if we don't get to it, I'll rush to it. This is at Andy Musique, and in addition to having big names like Liebman, they also have local musicians. And the woman in the back in the corner that's got the trumpet, Charmaine Michel, was making a so-called comeback. She's a trumpeter. And at the end of her set, she brought up these two young musicians who were starting their career. She wanted to give them a stage. And they're the Dorsey brothers and sisters. They're now 19 and 20, and they're both at Peabody. And they're incredible musicians. And I've been following them, not since then, but probably in the last 4 or 5 years. And this is, when you're able to take photographs of musicians across an extended longitudinal, time period, you're able to capture their development. And at this stage, they were not, they weren't super proficient. But if you could hear them now, they are incredible musicians that have so much potential for their careers, and they've grown up within this Baltimore culture, which is a very rich culture of collaboration among the musicians. The bass player back there appears later on, and you will see them. So these are the two musicians in the back, the sax and the bass player, worked at Andy Musique, but they were musicians from Peabody that were on their part-time, and they had a night every night on like once a month playing at Andy Musique and doing their thing. And unfortunately, they would be very sparsely attended. I think at this session, I might have been one of two people who attended it. But in covering this, and both of these musicians are really good musicians. It wasn't because of, their musical talents. It was just simply that's the state of jazz. But this particular session made me realize that shooting young, up and coming jazz musicians in these type of venues was something that I really had to do, because I really enjoyed photographing this particular concert because it has a type of look that you don't necessarily see every day in other venues, and it gave me an interest at this particular point of beginning to interact and photograph local musicians. I was I was the type of person that had grown up for 40 years thinking that I should only take photographs of Ornette Coleman and Julius Hemphill, and this made me realize that this was this could provide some really interesting photography and also documentation of young musicians coming into their own.
So let me ask you about the framing of this, because like I'm looking at the photo and the action, seems to be so prevalent in her skirt and her hair, and in the faces of the saxophonist and the bass player. But you've opened it up a lot, so even having that chair with the flute on it, and then I noticed that the colors of the cushion on the chair rhyme with the colors of her skirt. Now, are you thinking about that while you're shooting, or are you just thinking about I want to get the whole stage context on here, or
What I was thinking of, what I think of when in a lot of these wide photographs, when I shoot wide, is that I want to get as much of the environment as possible. And so the mics, the flute there. It's a good point that those colors rhyme, but I wasn't thinking about that when I was taking it. I was just saying I want to take this, and to that point, the next photograph that I'm going to show you is from the exact same angle, but totally different musicians, and it's kind of like once you get once you find a spot in a venue that you like to go to, and you figure out the type of photographs you can take from it, you return to that spot. And this is when this place was designed that way, that was one of my favorite spots. You can't sit there anymore because of the live streaming that goes on. I think they have a bunch of lights. Where I'm sitting right now, they have a bunch of lights, so you can't sit there.
uh-huh. um, Donna wants to ask, are all of those black and whites taken as color? And what are the
Yes.
criteria whether you're using them in black and white or color? And she says the grayscale black and white is fantastic.
Thank you. I shoot everything in RAW, in digital.
Oh,
I shoot everything in RAW, so I have the option of doing both. I
mhm.
can tell you right now that when I shoot, when in the albums that I do for musicians who are interested in seeing their concert, I do every photo that I think merits it. I do it both in color and in black and white.
Mhm.
But I have to hand it the little these little Leica. This is the Leica Deluxe. The black and white that it captures is phenomenal.
Mhm.
And here it is in the same spot. I didn't realize this until I was going through this last night. That's from the same spot.
Uh-huh.
And this is Tim Byrne with Chris Cheek and I think Reed Anderson. And this was done in 2019, I believe. This is when they were doing the Broken Shadows stuff with these are all Ornette songs
Right.
through a quartet. By the way, phenomenal quartet. A lot of musicians come through Baltimore before they go to New York and do whatever they're going to do as kind of a prep, because Baltimore, I think, is a really good area to try out stuff, because they typically have fairly intelligent crowds that can give them ideas of what they need to change. And this was done before they went to New York. And it was a great concert. This is in the same space from another angle, and this is a local group. The saxophone player that's over on the edge here is Derek Michaels, and this is one of those free improvised groups that create just great music. All of these are, musically trained, classically trained. They're good musicians, but they've chosen the route of free improvisation for the majority of their music. And you can catch them, and they appear in some of my other photographs, playing in different configurations. This was a really big changing point, and it's not musicians playing, but it's musicians talking. Todd Marcus is the guy that's seated, and Sean Young is the Sean Jones is the trumpet player there. And Todd had seen my work on Instagram and had asked me to come and document his recording session. He had a quartet session with Sean, and that kind of opened up a totally different part of jazz that I had never had the privilege of photographing. And so I've done a number of recording sessions that Todd and the Baltimore Jazz Collective have asked me to document. Sean Jones, if you don't know who he is the great trumpet player, but he's also runs the Peabody Jazz program, and he has created just an incredible program there, both with the musicians that he's been able to bring in, the young musicians, the people that are going to school, to Peabody Jazz Conservatory for jazz instruction, and his philosophy that musicians need to play and do jam sessions, on a regular basis. So what it's done is it's kind of like populated number of different spaces in Baltimore with, I'll tell you, I did not know how proficient young jazz musicians could actually be, but a lot of these musicians that come into this program have, mature voices already, at the age of 17 and 18, which to me just blown me out. And it's really enriched the Baltimore community. This is Ralph Peterson and Zakai Curtis at Andy Musique again, shot almost from that same corner that I like to shoot from. And Ralph Peterson unfortunately passed away, I think a number of years ago, 2 or 3. But he just an incredible musician. And Zakai Curtis is an incredible pianist, and I was so lucky to be able to capture this. This is probably a year, maybe a year and a half before he passed away. And he was actually part of that recording session that Todd and Sean were at. I just chose not to put a photo of him. The thing that with Ralph is that if you didn't know that he could play trumpet and play an incredible trumpet, I didn't know that until I saw him live, on this occasion.
Because he was mostly known as a drummer.
Yes, a percussionist. yeah. And I think he was also an educator, right?
Yes.
I think at Rutgers, I believe, I don't know, but great, great guy. This is, and if you'll notice, this is what almost different looking, and it's different looking because I'm using my new camera here. I'm using a Sony A7 III, and it took me like a year to figure it out. And I had gotten it a year before, but I use it now for just about everything because it's a wonderful, wonderful camera with incredible capabilities. And this is Craig Harris, and it's if you can see the type of detail that you can see in this photo, you can get that like most of the time. I mean, you know, you have to figure out how to adjust the camera, and that's what took me a year and a half to do.
Lighting adjustments or focus adjustments or
Um, Primarily, you know, how to take advantage of both the focusing, the automated, you know, the different focusing options, and also figuring out the room lighting. This was at Andy Music, so I knew the room lighting, but it, you know, I didn't have the confidence to to use it on a regular basis when I first got it because I was spending most of my time figuring it out. So I would use the Leica. But once I got, you know, where it felt like I could do anything with it, it's been my go-to camera. And the lenses and the focus, the focusing, you know, the automated focusing on that camera that focuses on the eye is impressive and super, super fast. This is again this is Andy Musique. This is Lafayette Gilchrist, and this is taken with a little with a small Leica. And Lafayette is a pianist here in Baltimore, originally from DC, who plays in a number of groups. Used to be Dave Murray's, I think, go-to pianist, and he's I've taken many photos of him, and I include him here because he is a you know, a Baltimore institution. This is a photo from a place that no longer exists. And the reason I took it is it was called the, I'm looking for the name of the place of this, the Wind Up Space. And this was the place where alternative musicians would go to play during an 11-year period. I came in at the tail end, and this is from the goodbye concerts that they had. They had 5 different setups with kind of like randomly chosen musicians playing with each other. And in this one, you can see a classically trained harp player with a couple of jazz musicians. And I do like to shoot this way, and shooting multiple musicians in a shot if at all possible, because it does show kind of the interaction that sometimes, yeah, not sometimes, but that always occurs between musicians visually. Obviously, they're playing kind of a free and open type of composition where they, you know, where they're deciding where to go based on what they're hearing.
the geometry is so interesting. Are you aware of that while you're shooting, or I mean,
I was on this one. Yeah, I was on this one, definitely. This was a great place to shoot in because it had a little side window on the side of the stage, and I'm shooting actually from the side of the stage in that window. I think that if you, one of the things that I've learned is that if you shoot in a place enough times, you can find places that you can get special shots that you know, people that come and shoot once may not ever figure out. And in this one, this is one of those special shots because you can't typically get that side shot there. This is another crazy space. It's called Space 2640. It's a Methodist, it's an old Methodist church. It's no longer a Methodist church. but it's you know, there's nothing, it's an open space, and it's used for all sorts of cultural events, including concerts. That's Fred Frith, who is playing the guitar on the far side, and the music group that he brought. He also brought in somebody that was projecting images. It's a great place to, and it's got really strange, not strange, really interesting lighting. So you can take really, really interesting photos of the actual, you know, direct of the actual musicians.
Mhm.
Great space to photograph in.
A couple comments on your last image. Matt Hook says, I love how you can see the basis through the strings of the harp and the good sense of balance. And yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. And
Thanks.
Bill May asks, what's the shutter speed? Blurring the left hand of the harpist. All the others are frozen.
Yeah, I would have to get back on the shutter speed. I had that stuff written down on another cheat sheet that I came up with, but then I said, nobody's going to ask me that. It's probably 1/50th, and it's opened, it's 1.4 is probably the how wide open it is. But yeah, it's not, you know, that's a detriment of not shooting with a flash. But I just, part of the reason I don't shoot with a flash is because I think it actually gets in musicians' way. I know there's flashes now that almost, you know, musicians can't even tell you're using it, but I've just refused to go down that path.
Well, you wouldn't have gotten that shadow, the shadow of the.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you know, totally, totally. Yeah.
Keep going.
This is Andy Music again, and this is Eri Yamamoto. Bruce Barth is on the other side. It was supposed to be a duo concert, and the singer,
Renee
who
Marie.
who is Renee Marie, was in the audience, and she jumped up and decided to become part. Now, I think Bruce actually produced one of her earlier albums, so they knew each other. But it created, you know, it was wonderful to see the spontaneity that occurred there.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, in most concerts, you don't see that type of spontaneity sometimes. And it made me realize how much I like the kind of unexpected that occurs in it can occur in a concert venue.
Hmm.
Now, I include this one because this is a Keystone Corner. Todd Barkham opened up Keystone Corner in 2019. So that became a new venue. And this is Eddie Palmieri, who is I think I've seen him more times than any other musician. And Joe Locke is on the other extreme. And this was, I believe, taken with my little deluxe. And it's more to say that a new venue had opened up in Baltimore, an important venue because it's bringing type of talent probably that you know that doesn't have an opportunity to come here. Eddie had played at Andy Music one time in a trio setting, but this is a quintet. Part of the issue I have with shooting it and this in a place like this is the lighting is just crazy. And this was in the early days. They've actually done a much better job, but at this stage, it was difficult to photograph because of the different color temperature in the lights.
And Bill May says the sharpness in the low light, probably handheld, is amazing.
Yeah, it was handheld. This is all handheld. Yeah.
Yeah.
This next one is at the same venue. And in this one, it was still during the early times when they were trying to figure out how to light this. And this is Billy Drews, and the singer is Mausha. And because they have a lot of hot spots on the stage, I was able to take advantage of the hot spot. Not I was, but Billy Drews was able to take advantage in playing this in just beautiful solo to you know, to a Brazilian tune. I can't remember which one it was, but it's I was able to get this shot, which I like because I remember the solo that he was taking, and it was a very romantic romantic solo of kind of wooing Mausha
Mhm.
to continue her song.
So have these been published?
No, nothing that you've seen so far has ever been published.
Hmm.
This is one that I'm glad we've gotten to at least this phase, because this is a symposium that occurred at Johns Hopkins, which I graduated from. And it was a symposium that was done in 2019. It was for the Palace Algiers, 1969. It was celebrating the 50 years of the Declaration of Freedom by Black avant-garde, American avant-garde. And that's Archie Shepp, that's David Murray, and the trombonist is Gratian Moncour. And it was 2 days of actual talking, not playing. This was like at the end of the 2 days of presentations, very, very academic presentations, many very good. The second day was of the musicians talking about what happened when they went over to Paris and subsequently, I think it was Libya or Algiers, was it Algiers? To do this pan African concert. And it was interesting to see jazz in that more academic light rather than just in the club. This was a concert at Andy Musique, and the next shot is the participants. And let me see here, the guy, the people here are the guy right in the middle on top is the professor that actually had this, Derek Schilling. He was the head of the Romance Language Department. Henry Wong is over on the far, I guess, right, next to that speaker. He's the proprietor of Andy Musique.
And a
Doc
jazz hero,
Manning,
Baltimore Jazz Hero.
yeah. Doc Manning is right next to him, and he's a guy that's hosted a jazz show here in Baltimore for 30 plus years. And then on the front there are other musicians that participated that night. And you see Dave Burrell and Jack Courcille, who is was a trumpet player, a French trumpet player who was part of that whole scene back in 1969. I shot the whole conference, so I have 80 photographs. I have 80 photograph albums. So if anybody's interested in looking at that and seeing who was there, it was a wonderful event that unfortunately has not been, it hasn't been redone.
Is that Jane Cortez on the left end of the standing?
I don't think so. She may be. Is she the partner of any of the musicians there?
She had been Ornette Coleman's wife for a
No,
while.
then it's not. She's the partner of one of those musicians. I don't know if it's Archie. No, it's not Archie. Might be, that's Dave Burrell's. I think that might be Dave Burrell's
I see.
partner spouse.
Okay.
This is at Bertha's, and this was the last show before. This is the night before COVID hit, and we had the 6-7 months of no music. And this is Tim Byrne, who came down to play at Bertha's for some musicians that were basically playing for the tip bar. And we went down there, and the day after this, we ensued 8 months of no music, or very little music, let's put it that way, live music. So kind of commemorates the end of what was becoming for me, I was going to one or two jazz venues per day. And after that, we went through the COVID was bad for a lot of reasons, but for musicians, it certainly impacted their ability to play in front of people and also to make money.
Because of your interest in the context, you're getting such interesting angles, and you're filling up the frame with so much unexpected material.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're pointing that out, because that is actually I'm going for some of that. I definitely am going for some of those little details. And in this place, you couldn't not do this because it was a crowded little bar. It's a bar, and
Right.
it's an L-shaped room that forced you, if you were going to take photos, you had to be sitting where I'm sitting right now,
Uh-huh.
right in front of the the trumpet player who's standing by my side.
But the angle on the window and the angle on the door, like, seem uh,
Yeah.
different, somehow. Yeah, but they're cool. Yeah.
So real quickly, I know that I'm probably overrunning here, but
Let's try to keep moving.
this is a COVID reality. So this was like 5 months into COVID, and this is Andy Musique. You remember that beautiful stage that you saw? Now it's become a kind of a TV studio, and this is Lafayette Gilchrist doing a live stream. And there were many live streams. I think Henry, the guy from Andy Musique, has produced 800 live streams out of that space. And for any concert that runs there, you can see a live stream. And the positive thing about it, the sad thing is that it's difficult to shoot great photos in there. The positive thing is that he's got I think a partnership with Peabody. And so the technicians that are recording this are studying to become audio engineers. And these things are so well recorded. They're better than any other live streams that I've seen recently. They're very, very well recorded. Not in the beginning, but they've learned how to record them through the experience of 800 live streams.
Mhm.
This was really a wide opening for me here. 6 months into COVID, somebody put up a thing saying we're going to do an outdoor in the park jazz concert. Come on out if you want. And so we hadn't heard live music in a long time. So we went out there, and this was the environment of this program that's called Jazz in the Parks, pop-up jazz by the bassist that's playing there. That started in 2020. It continues to today. I've photographed probably 70 out of the 80 jazz in the parks that begin occurring now. And it's been a really eye-opener for me because I realized what shooting jazz outdoors and the ability to be able to walk anywhere and shoot these concerts. It's really totally different. And it melds in the landscape photography, obviously, of the opportunity. This is the guy, Ed Rybeck, great jazz bassist, also an educator. And this guy works 7 days a week. He has a gig every day. And now every Thursday, his gig is doing this during the spring and summer months in different parks. It's also been wonderful to be able to shoot parts of Baltimore that you never get to see or that you don't even know. So now I've been to, every park, every green space. It's not just parks because it's places like this also. And this is like a different neighborhood. And Todd Marcus is there, Devron Dennis. A lot of these guys here are musicians from Peabody. And in fact, Sean Jones' partner is back there, Brene Ali, who's a singer and great tap dancer. And this is a neighborhood in Baltimore where we're doing music during COVID. This is another park, and this is another musician, Brent Burkhead, who's just a great person to photograph. He's just incredibly animated, has a lot of charisma, and this was at a different park. And you can see the things occur during sundown, they're like sundowners, so you can get some great lighting in the background there. You can see it. And this is one of the more interesting concerts that they did out in the park. And you can see this horn section is an incredible horn section. Eric Williams, who plays for one of the military bands and is an incredible trumpet player from North Carolina, Sean Jones, Todd Marcus, Brent Burkhead, Melanie Brown, and John McGahee. This was like a horn section that showed up, to jam at these jazz in the parks, and you can see the people surrounding the musicians. Really, really, really one of the more positive experiences
How,
to be
how,
able to go outside and see this type of stuff.
how is it almost looks like there's backlighting because they pop out so much from the front. I mean, the outlines of the figures, especially the trumpet player on the left, you can see clearly. But
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is natural lighting, right?
There's all natural lighting. I mean, I've had done something on my processing that brought that out, but I didn't at the time I did this photo. I don't think I was as adept as I am now at being able to do something like that.
Do you do
But yeah,
much?
it's go on.
Do you do much digital processing post?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. That's the other thing I was going to say. I don't. I shoot raw and I process. I mean, when I say do a lot, I mean I do. I've got it down to like about 3 to 4 minutes per photo, unless it's a difficult photo. I have presets that I developed to get this type of look. You know, it's a preset that I developed based on my experience. I want things to look more documentary style than promotional style. And hopefully that comes through.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think I could do this type of photography if I didn't do post processing.
Mhm.
This is the porch concerts. This is another thing that Ed developed, and this is the drummer there is Warren Wolf, who I don't know if he's familiar, but he's probably the most famous current Baltimore musicians. He's a vibraphonist, but he's a instrumentalist, and he is incredibly supportive. He's also teaches at Peabody, and this is a group that got together to do this porch concert. The pianist is Hannah Meyer. She's again a student, but she's going to be a big jazz star one day, I believe. She
Mhm.
has incredible talents, both in her piano abilities and also composition and arrangements. And this is one of the venues. They do this every week and every other week in different porches. And this was the porch that they selected for this week, which was an outdoor eatery. This is a different group. This is Derek, who you saw earlier, who's more of a free improvisation musician. Tony Martucci is in the middle and Alex Weber on bass. And they figured out that one of the places they could play during COVID was at coffee shops. And this was a coffee shop vigilante in College Park, and they've situated themselves in the coffee storage area, and they were playing. But I mean, that's how kind of crazy it got during that period in order for musicians to play in front of people.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is the other venue, and I'm glad we got to this because this is our house, and not our house. This is the session, and this is when they were doing it at Terra. The guy that's not playing an instrument that's over on the other side is Clarence War the Third, and he runs the session. I think it's a jam session that's been going on for 11, 12, 13 years. And Clarence was running it in Terra Cafe. I saw a video on Instagram and I said, what is this thing? It looked like the most incredible jazz environment that you could imagine, with people playing in very animated ways, and just incredible environment. And it was this place here. And this is Brent Burkhead. The sax player is one of the Dorsey, Ephraim Dorsey. now, 5 years later, he's at Peabody. I don't think he was at Peabody here. I think he was in high school. And they're playing in this Monday night session, which is really one of the more incredible sessions because they have people coming in from, out of the state to be able to jam with these musicians. That's a shot of Clarence Ward third. I probably have, 500 shots of him close-ups, and 300 of them are different because he's the type of musician whose just facial features change. He changes his hair, he changes his, the way he dresses. Very, very charismatic, great, great person, and fun to photograph. And I put this one up actually to show, I mean, a lot of my photographs are close-ups, but I do them more for the musicians than I do them for me because I'm more interested in the back, the wider shots. This is his pianist that plays at the session. And this is Aaron Hill, and he used to come during COVID, he used to come to our neighborhood, our community, and play as a trio, and that's how I met him. And then we kind of encountered each other at these sessions. And he's also a very animated, kind of flamboyant, visually interesting guy, and also a great pianist. Mm-hmm. This is the new place where they've been playing for the last year and a half. It's called Our House, and you can see the venue. The stage is back there, and it's the people, it has a great loyalty. It's Mondays from 7 to 10. The first hour is the house band, and then after that, it gets pretty wild. And usually, I always recommend for people to come after 9 because there's less people, and the musicians will do, will play what they want to play, which is usually more interesting. This is the stage, and you can see Clarence there. The guy in the middle is Rufus Roundtree. He has his own group, great singer, MC, and that's kind of one of the core groups that plays. The guys in the back line there are Peabody students that usually can be found there every week.
I like the money in the front there.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, I think they must do pretty well because it's been something that they've been doing for many years, and it's just grown. It's a great venue. Here's the kind of the lineup, the usual suspects. These guys are waiting to go on. The guy furthest, the guy that looks like he's ready to go on is again Efrain Dorsey, who has developed an incredible technique and style of playing, and he's at Peabody, and actually all the first 4 guys there are all Peabody students, which Sean urges his students to get out in the community and play.
Well, that's wide angle also, right?
That's a wide angle, yeah. That's on a 28, I believe.
Uh-huh.
This is something I don't normally do, but I because I have a good relationship with Sean and Todd, they asked me to shoot a promo session with them outdoors, and I did. And this is the Baltimore Jazz Collective. He's a great group, and this is at a moment of you can see they seem to be having fun. I don't know what the joke was here, but they do seem to be having fun, and it's great to be able to. You can run into these guys at any of the jam sessions that occur on a weekly basis, which kind of tells you where my head is at, because I actually prefer going to these jam sessions these days than actually going to see some of the pre-programmed stuff. This is one of the other places that had jam sessions. It lasted for a year. It looks like the basement, but it was a bar in East Baltimore called Bar 1801. That's Tim Green, who's a fabulous alto player. It's also a Peabody faculty member. And there's various musicians around him. Most of them are students, but over on the corner, is Lionel Lyles, who is a great professional tenor player from Baltimore, Washington area. This place was fun because the lighting was totally crazy. This is a day when it's not that crazy. They put up colored lights all over, and it was a challenge to photograph, but while it lasted, it was a lot of fun. I probably did about 12 sessions there. This is another one. This is called Werner's. This lasted a year. And that is Elijah Balbad, who is a DC tenor player, great player. Obasi Okato is behind him. Brendan Brady, who ran the other jam session, is playing drums. And my pianist there, Mayor, is playing piano. And this is a place called Werner's, and it was the best place to photograph. It's almost overlit, but it just produced great, with the wood paneling and just the atmosphere in this place was great. And I found out that The Wire filmed a bunch of stuff in this place. In other words, the series, The Wire, a lot of the
series, yeah.
they had their lunch, they had their little get-togethers here, and so it does have wonderful visual cachet. This is another new place called Oversea. It's a distillery, but that's Ed again. This is one of his many other ventures, and it's Brent Burkhead. And this is an interesting place because the red in the background is actually a projected screen that while they're playing is putting up all sorts of things, advertisements and video and stuff. So it's a challenge to get a good shot, but you can get great shots. I think this is an interesting shot of these musicians. And it's a place that's every kind of Friday night. It's not a jam session. It's usually a trio session, but it's fun to be there because the musicians can get to play what they want.
Mm-hmm.
This is called the Hargrove. This is one of the newer places that I found out by accident. And this is the free musicians that are playing. The guy that's leading the set is the guitarist from, I think he's Swedish, and this place is a little carriage house in the back of Charles Village. Very difficult to find. And when I got there, great place to photograph because of the lighting, and it's a nice space to listen to music. But they didn't have any heat, and it's in the middle of January, and you can see the musicians are braving the weather. And I have gotten some great stuff. Subsequent to this, I've been able to get some great stuff from other groups. And this is the church, of course, and being Baltimore, it is the church is actually a place where you can see a lot of music. And this was a 200th anniversary of the St. James Church, and they were doing the Ellington Sacred Works, and it was a gigantic big band, and Gabrielle Goodman is the singer there. And it was very well attended, and kind of highlighted and reminded me that the church in Baltimore is a place where you can also see and experience jazz on a regular basis. This was the first time I had done it. I don't typically, and they don't typically bring out a gigantic orchestra, but a lot of the musicians that you see, that you've seen up to date, are musicians that play in their their church band and participate in the church music every weekend.
Bill May says, what concerns me is that where are all these young musicians going to work if they intend to make a living as a musician?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I tend to, a lot of them are going to become educators. I think, a lot of them are going to become educators. There does seem to be yeah, I agree. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, is I'm trying to actually expand as much as possible, even within the Baltimore community, the recognition that this stuff is going on and that it's an important part of the cultural heritage and environment of Baltimore. But you're right, it's a sad thing. A lot of these musicians, though, a lot of their gigs that you've seen, a lot of them are educators.
Well, and they're educating at least audiences, if not more musicians, and maybe both. You know, Efren, I think we should wrap it up here because you've got the church, you've explained why you're doing this, and we're looking at a photo of Ellington Sacred Concerts, and tomorrow, isn't it? Ellington's
Yeah.
11th birthday.
Great. Okay. No, that's yeah, that's totally, it's totally fine. And hopefully you've gotten a view of what I'm shooting and the interest that I have in terms of the jazz photography that I'm doing.
I think we certainly have. Do you want to stop sharing so we can just
Yeah,
see for a moment? And if anybody has questions or something, any of the attendees want to say anything, be glad to put you on for a moment. But we do have to move along. So anybody have a question or a comment? Now's the time.
From that was really
Well, I just want to say, Bill May, I mean, it's very important documentation you're doing, and it's done exceedingly well. And you'd be commended for what you're doing, your diligence and your artistic eye and your skills. It's just absolutely stunning.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Matt?
Yeah, that was really cool, especially since me and Ephraim tend to oftentimes take photos of the same concerts together because we go to the same venues like Andy and whatnot. And it's always cool to see how your photos end up being different from mine.
They're
Like
different.
different perspective. I'm
That's
curious
it.
what,
Good.
because like when you go through the editing process, what do you sort of look for in an image? Is it like certain kind of angles or framing of the subject? Is it like the lighting or details on a certain like facial expression? Like, as you said, you've taken like, 500 photos of Clarence, when you're looking through that massive library, and a lot of the photos I
Yeah,
assume have similar angles. What kind of sticks
yeah,
out?
I'll admit to you that I never get through all the photos that I take. I mean, I don't have enough time to do that. So I go through them and I first look, they have to be in focus, first of all. So once they're in focus, by looking at a number of them, I like to get unique angles. And I look for the expression of the musician. What I'm doing more often now is I've figured out that musicians are actually, I'm taking more photos of musicians when they're not playing, because that's usually when they have different, I have enough photos of musicians playing, and I'm no longer as interested in that aspect. So I'm been focusing on musicians not playing. It's an evolving thing that I look at, and that's the way I do it, and it can change. In the editing, I do change framing, by the way. I mean, I alter framing a lot. So I rarely, when I was young, a lot of the photos in the first set of photos, they were framed that way. I didn't do a lot of cropping. But now I can do cropping. And why can I do cropping? Is because the digital technology is incredible. The sensors are incredible. They capture so much.
Um, it's April 29th. That's Ellington's birthday. That's Monday, not tomorrow. Um, but of course, every day is a good day to celebrate Duke Ellington's birthday. Ephraim, wonderful work. And tell
Thank
us
you.
where we can see your work usually.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only place you can see my work today, and it's not unfortunately, but you can see it at on Instagram. My moniker is at Breton, Breton 9 jazz. And I usually post every day, every single day, of, the concerts that I've seen in the past week. And I post usually 10 images per day. So if you go there, you can see a lot of jazz images. Both good and bad. I mean, you'll see the good and the bad there, but and I'm doing that to kind of overwhelm. I'm thinking that you can potentially overwhelm the people into coming to the jazz venues that we frequent here in Baltimore.
Show them more photos, and that'll make them go hear more music.
Yes,
Right.
volume impacts.
Thanks so much. This has been great
You're welcome.
session,
Thanks.
Efrain Ribeiro, and please check out other sessions of Seeing Jazz. They're all archived on YouTube. And thanks very much. It was really great to have you, and we hope for some more interaction. So
Great.
thanks
Thanks
again.
for the opportunity, Howard.
My pleasure.